just for a checkup instead of leaving it for 12, 15 months until they really needed to go. So there is a little bit of good news, we think. With respect to depression, though, not so significantly different. We've got a couple of other measures that we need to look at for quality of life. But when we just look at the depression tool, the official kind of PHQ-9, which is one of the major study tools, psychological tools that they use to look at depression, doesn't seem to be a significant difference. Yes, everybody has improved a little bit, so the people with moderate depression have maybe moved down into the no or mild depression, but in both groups. So it occurs equally in both groups, so we can't attribute that to the intervention. So some of the reasons we've already talked about, so I'm going to skip through, that we didn't observe significant clinical outcomes was our participants were very well controlled in the first instance, and the length of intervention might not have been long enough. So let's look at our key peer support functions, and our first one is assistance to apply diabetes management plan in daily life. So the way that we addressed that and the things that we did in the intervention had the group discussion, and I showed you the results from the themes that were discussed in the groups. We had some password-protected websites with some additional self-management education sessions. And then we had very much a focus on groups doing things together. So the group out in Dandenong, one of the members was a Tai Chi instructor, so he initiated Tai Chi for the group as well, and they would have a Tai Chi lesson every week, and then they'd have a group meeting as well. And as I said before, the Bendigo group had walking exercises. So this is just a bit of feedback from the participants and the leaders. Everyone comes to the meeting with their education manual, and most of the information we need is in that book. So we understand that the information is out there, and the group will help us figure out how to use the information and get better, manage better. From the participants, about the group meetings, better control of diabetes with support and encouragement, gain knowledge on being healthy, learning, and it is a continuum, learning to change my lifestyle, motivated to attend exercise sections, learn new ideas from peers on better management, learned useful things, access the healthy eating booklet, goal setting to improve my diabetes management. So these are all things that happened in the group that were appreciated by the participants. So if we look at the second key function, which was about providing social and emotional support, there was group discussion about coping, depression, anxiety. Some groups had psychologists come to the group and talk about how to manage stress in your life. We had relaxation exercises. One of the groups actually started with the relaxation CD every week, every meeting. They would just have this 5 minute of, okay, you're here now, let's do a relaxation exercise. And it was an opportunity to talk about social and family interactions, things that were happening, people that you know, don't have an impact in your life, and so you could easily talk about things. There was support outside the meeting between the leader and the participants, but also many friendships between participants occurred during the intervention. And then again, implementing these exercises and groups together. We lost one of our participant members, and this was the leader, comments from the leader. I phoned the group members to tell them about Jay. 3 of us went to the funeral, and a card was signed by everyone in the group. Everyone was shocked when they heard, but we talked about her positive contributions to the group and her own positive action towards her diabetes management. So they used the group to grieve and to experience how to manage the fear. This could have been me as well. This is some of our Bendigo members and talking about the walk around the lake. It's a distance of about 1.5 kilometres, but with arthritic hips and bad backs, it was an achievement for some and easy for others, but we were there to do it, and the challenge is to do it again. Just very quickly, our linkaging into the GP services and clinical care, a fairly high proportion of our group had their own physicians. Many of them had a management plan, and about half of them had private health insurance. Healthcare professionals attended the meeting, so we had dietitians and diabetes educators came to the meetings, so they were fairly well received. A couple of GPs, a couple of podiatrists, an exercise physiologist came to several of the groups. A pharmacist, two of the group leaders, when we were talking about support on the telephone, we talked about accessing the pharmacist, and two of them went off and spoke to their regular pharmacist, and their pharmacist came and talked about drugs and the NDSS and the consumables that they were eligible to get. And then four of the groups went on the supermarket tours that are arranged by Diabetes Australia. Quite a few members have struggled with their own GPs in terms of giving support and encouragement and direction. I guess that they needed, and in fact, a couple of them have finally bitten the bullet in their last few meetings and decided to go to another practitioner, and have actually found that to be a positive move. For some people, that's been really difficult, as they've been with the GP for most of their life, and have had to having to make that move is quite a difficult thing to do. But with support from the group members, they're realising it's actually been beneficial. So that is an issue. I think all of us face, we have a GP, and it's a bit like changing banks, isn't it? You don't want to do it. They're out there, they're available. You can go find a new GP, but are they going to be better or worse than the one that I've already got? So actually moving GPs is a little bit like moving your bank accounts. It's pretty hard. And luckily for these people, and this happened in several groups, they used the group, the leaders knew that the people were struggling with their GPs, and the group supported those members to actually bite the bullet and move, and in fact was a very positive experience. So 6 of the groups wish to continue meeting, and 5 of them, I think it shows, are from regional locations. Sustainability is an issue about these kinds of groups, and you do need to have people put in place opportunities for succession plans, so the leader's not the only one who's driving the group, but the group is being driven by the members. Some have established good support with their local health, community health services, and Diabetes Australia has undertaken opportunities to support the groups, but they are being a little bit reserved in how much of the program they're going to take on, given the results that we've achieved so far. And we've just been given a new grant in this year's round of NH and MRC grants to work in partnership with Diabetes Australia to develop some telehealth support. So that will be automated diabetes support and care over the phone. However, when we asked the participants about the key peer support functions, a fairly high proportion in general said that they were satisfied and they felt that the program addressed each of the peer support functions quite well, especially assistance in daily management. So they found that that was really a helpful aspect. Social and emotional support and assistance with keeping in contact and linked up with their GPs. So just in conclusion, no real great joy on a scientific, clinical, statistical basis, but no tears yet. We're still under the analysis umbrella, and there are some suggestions that peer support definitely improve things like medication adherence, and had the intervention gone on longer, then adhering to your medication may then well have ended up in improving the clinical outcomes. Key program outcomes that we felt that the key peer support functions were well achieved and evaluated by the participants. One of the things obviously that we were not planning on doing or evaluating or looking at ended up being this idea about supporting the supporters through the teleconference. That really worked well. And having DAVIC on board was a major plus. So these are all the people, obviously the peer leaders who put in a lot of time and dedication, the participants, and this is the cast of thousands. Our funding was from Peers for Progress, so if you haven't been to their website, it's available through the CIA. I love saying that. So a link to their Peers for Progress website, and they have a great newsletter and a blog and a Twitter page and everything as well. So, and if we've got time, I spoke with John briefly, and he suggested a couple of suggestions that we might want to discuss if we have time. But it's up to you.
Thank you very much, Michaela. We are just over time, and there are a couple of more short presentations that John needs to give. I wonder, are there any other burning questions that people didn't have an opportunity to ask during Michaela's presentation?
Yeah, to Ms. Michaela, just one quick thing, because you expressed that disappointment of not seeing much change in matters to heart issues. What assumption made you think you could achieve that in a year? Like the conclusion.
Well, there is some other evidence out there predicated on the fact that they've used people who have HbA1c much higher, very much. In America, they seem to be less well controlled, and that's a very common observation by Australian diabetologists, is that our population is much better controlled than, for example, the American population. Possibly because we have Medicare and a decent medical system that allows people to, and the NDSS, which gives people the opportunities to have cheaper consumables. So, and our drugs don't cost as much as the drugs on the American system as well.
Michaela, I'm not sure whether whether as you research a little bit further or review your stats, some of those baseline discrepancies between your intervention and your control group in terms of the characteristics of those groups might be taken into account or traced a little bit further.
We have taken, in the analysis, we've taken into account any differences.
It sort of goes to one of those, a couple of the points up there, that there's a 5 to 6% difference in 5 factors